Stand by SOT1.
Standing.
10 seconds. Ready, rolling. Ready, SOT1.
Ready.
In 4, 3, 2, 1. Roll in.
From legendary Uncle Studios in beautiful Southern California, welcome to another edition of Work Comp Matters, the central location for you employees, you employers, and of course we haven't forgotten about you damn independent contractors. And now, here's this week's edition of Work Comp Matters.
It is February 25th, 2022. 15 minutes after 12 noon Pacific Standard Time. Welcome to another edition of Work Comp Matters. We are sponsored by mancavepodcasting.com. We've got almost 700 podcasts in the tank, in the cloud, completely free, no obligation. And if you want to do your own podcast, all you have to do is talk. 818-357-4120. We will manage, produce, direct, get that sucker streamed live and into the cloud forever. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Steve Appel. Yes, I know I'm 15 minutes late, but you know what? The podcast sometimes has to wait, especially when you're signing up that big Dig client. John Scalia is on vacation today, and I have got my brother, attorney Mark Appel, who is not only my brother, he's not only attorney, he is my personal attorney. I think last time Mark and I were on the show together, I could be wrong, was at the start of the pandemic in May of, May
2020.
May 20, where the GAV put down the mandate, nobody allowed in public. And I went out, I not only went out in public, and I went in my car. I did not go out on a street corner alone. I went in my car because arguably it was breaking the law. And I announced it in advance on social media. And I got hit up by people that saying, Steve, are you going to be responsible for all the people that you caused to be in the hospital and all you caused to die and all of that? And I took those responses and criticisms very seriously because I wasn't organizing a protest. I wasn't organizing a trucker thing from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. I wasn't organizing 1,000 or 100 or even 10 people. It was me, and me alone going out to do the podcast in public. And I took it very seriously back then. And when I look at it now, and Mark, you tell me if I'm looking at it through filtered lenses, but it seems totally comical to me now that me going out alone to do a podcast and people were accusing me that I was going to be responsible for multiple people being hospitalized and dying because of COVID-19. Little old me.
Yeah, I remember, Steve, and actually it seemed comical then to a point. The big Starbucks protest at the corner of DeSoto in Ventura.
Yes.
But social awareness is always a good thing. But it was the big Starbucks protest, but the drive-through at DeSoto and Ventura. Fortunately, no accidents that we're aware of that have been reported. But I commend you on your ingenuity and your initiative as always. And I just want to say, in honor and greetings to everybody, in honor of John Scalia, who's not here today, I did take my maniac pill this morning. So I'm ready to go.
That is fantastic. We were 15. Mark was ready to go 5 minutes early, which Mark is always on time. I was involved with a client, of course, for those of you that are listening to the show regularly, and for those of you that are listening for the very first time, I have my new office. It's in month number 2, 6315 Van Nuys Boulevard. And we're here for 5 years. The wonderful firm, my bosses, my attorneys, Nitka Al-Ghazi. And I was signing up that high Dig client. And Yeah, I'm sorry, podcast fans, but I got the sign up. I got literally that $1 million client. Okay. Now, no, that's not $1 million to me. It's not $1 million to the firm, but it's the $1 million case. And I've always said, and I have said this many times in the podcast, if you treat people right, if you do your best to treat everybody like your best client, even those very small cases that aren't worth a lot of money, you'll never know when you will pick up the phone and get that $1 million client. And I literally picked up the phone yesterday, and that $1 million client not only was just in my office, but signed up. Now, yeah, there's a prior attorney. He's not happy with his attorney. But generally speaking, and Mark, you can attest to this, it's not often that you pick up the phone for that $1 million case and the guy has not been represented before. Normally, he's been represented for a while. The attorney isn't returning their calls. He or she is not happy with the service. And then they start shopping around, which is why I always say, I do my best to treat even my smallest clients like my most important clients, because you'll never know when they will refer you a $1 million case. And I kid you not, everybody, I just signed up a $1 million case because I picked up the phone yesterday and there it was.
And we are applauding you right here. I'm giving you the golf clap. I'm giving you the strong clap. My lighter is up in the concert. Way to go. And I agree. Treat your clients right. Keep the communication flowing. The single biggest complaint that clients have with their attorneys is a lack of communication. That is why they fire their clients. So, and Steve is a communicator, and good for you.
Yeah, very, very rarely do clients of attorneys complain to the state bar because their attorney screws up in court or does not have the appropriate legalese or does something that they specifically told them not to do. Just like Mark said, it's normally one of two things. It's you don't communicate with your clients. And the other one, fortunately, in workers' comp, we don't have to worry about. And that's commingling trust fund money. Because in workers' compensation, generally speaking, over 99% of the time, unless there's an attorney fee issue, which does not involve the client's money is not commingled in a trust fund.
Because they don't trust us.
Right.
The board now commingling in the civil case or outright stealing, aka an attorney who's been in the news a lot lately, that will get you a first-class ticket to disbarment every time.
No question about it. And fortunately for me, because I'm a workers' compensation hearing representative, I don't have access to the trust fund. So there's nothing I have to worry about. You know what I mean? But
I hear you.
Hey, Mark, just for the hell of it, would you recommend any attorney that's listening? And I don't know if you want to disclose, but I've always said you want to have a minimum of $500 in the trust fund just in case, even if it doesn't belong to anybody. Is that too much money to keep in the trust fund? Would you recommend closer to $100, or do you like the $500?
$500 for me, I think, is a bit on the high side. I usually try and keep it to 100 to a couple of hundred. I don't think there's anything wrong with 500, but yeah, over 100 is usually a good rule of thumb just to keep something in there. I would agree with that.
Yeah, very good. So we started 15 minutes late. The show is going to run 15 minutes late. I haven't even had a chance to check the news wire, but fortunately, I've got my brother and my personal attorney, Mark, who has run the news wire. And Mark will just read a story or two, and then if we want, we'll comment on it, if that's okay. Before we get to that, I wanted to talk to Mark, and maybe this will take us up for the next 6 or 7 minutes to the break. We'll do the break, then we'll get to the news wire. But are you following what's happening in Ukraine, Mark? Should we even talk about that? Or fair enough. Let me talk briefly about what we know, and then Mark, you can comment. Okay, what we know is that Russia has massed troops on 3 sides of Ukraine, and they have started infiltrating the country on three sides. Putin apparently has come out publicly, and whether or not you want to agree with what he's saying or not, he has indicated that a majority of Ukraine is independent, and he has said he will not go in that independent part of Ukraine. But there are certain parts of Ukraine that he clearly wants to annex, take over, demilitarize. What did he say? Nationalize or whatever. And I don't like that. But nevertheless, the United States is not going to put boots on the ground in Ukraine. As of right now, no other country in the world is going to put boots on the ground in Ukraine. The United States has sent military machinery, I don't know exactly what, into Ukraine. I suspect other countries have sent other military machinery into Ukraine, but no country except Russia has put boots on the ground in Ukraine. Now, that being said, and I'll close with this, and then Mark, you can comment, I strongly suspect that the United States, NATO, and other countries are beefing up their boots on the ground on 4, if not 5, border countries of Ukraine, because if Putin takes one step into any of those 5 countries, that is arguably the start of World War III. And I'm not a fear mongerer, but that's what I know, and that's what I think. Mark, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, it's definitely a scary time right now, Steve, because Putin has made it very clear that he wants to rebuild Russia to what it was in the Cold War. And I don't think borders or NATO or any arbitrary rules are going to stop him. The main reason he's able to go into Ukraine unfettered from the rest of the world, boots on the ground, is because Ukraine is not a member of NATO. And NATO has Article 5 in their charter, which requires other NATO members to come to the defense of NATO members who are invaded. So NATO, as a rule, cannot come to Ukraine's defense. And yes, they're putting elements on other borders. They're trying with economic sanctions and other sanctions, anything they could throw it. But I don't think Putin cares if sanctions affect his country at all. I don't think he cares if it affects his people. He has got this dream of rebuilding the great Russian Empire, and that is extraordinarily scary. But what is surprising, at least right now, is apparently the Ukrainians are defending their homeland. They're saying, allegedly, nobody knows for sure, that there is an unexpected offensive slowing due to fierce Ukrainian resistance. The president has said that men 18 to 60 may not leave the country, and they're handing out rifles and to the populace, over 20,000 rifles to the populace. The president of Ukraine, Zelensky, has swapped his business suit for hunting gear, and he might be getting ready to go to the front lines. They are beefing up the border of Poland, which is on the western Ukrainian border. The real test, I think, is if Putin tries to go into I think it's Latvia and Lithuania, which are members of NATO and are former members of the Russian Republic. But it's pretty scary what's going on in Ukraine right now. And I hope, we obviously hope for the best for the people of Ukraine. Apparently Steve, you remember the heavyweight boxers, the 2 heavyweight boxers who are Ukrainian, who said they are going to the front to battle for Ukraine. One of them, I forget the names, who said they will go and they will fight for their homeland. Vitaly Klitschko and his brother, Vladimir Klitschko, they said they're both going. And Vitaly's pretty big. He's like 6'8", so he can maybe stop a tank on his own. But it's very interesting to see what's going to happen in the next few days, in the next few weeks.
Yeah, well, a lot of the resistance from Ukraine is going to come, is going to come from a lot of resistance from Ukraine is going to come from untrained non-military soldiers. Like you just said, they're handing out guns. I don't know if this is formal militia, if these are just people that live in Ukraine, they're gentlemen, whatever the case may be. But Ukraine is bordered with Belarus, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, and is it pronounced Moldova? Moldova? Whatever.
Moldavia.
Yeah.
Moldova.
And
yeah.
Putin knows that if he steps one foot into any of those countries, and this is what scares me, is there's NATO is going to hear rumblings of Russian soldiers stepping over the border, and that's the problem that I foresee happening in the future. No country is going into Ukraine. You can take all the sanctions, you can take all of the cybersecurity issues, you can take all the computers. Of course, remember, very important, that Russia controls half of the natural gas. I don't know how much security, but Russia controls half of the natural gas that goes into Europe. This is probably a contributing factor why both the United States, the European Union, NATO, they are not going to challenge Putin. Putin's going to get what he wants in Ukraine. Trust me. The only one that can prevent Russia from getting what they want in Ukraine is Putin himself. And with that, it's time for a break. You're dialed into Work Comp Matters. We are sponsored by mancavepodcasting.com. 700 shows. They're completely free, no obligation, available to you 24/7. And if you want to do your own, the content is yours. We will stream live, produce, direct manage, get it into the cloud forever. Sorry we were late today, but I was signing up that $1 million client. No BS. I've said it for years. I'll say it again. It happened today, or actually it happened yesterday. I picked up the phone and it was that $1 million client. Yeah, he had been represented by an attorney for many years. And this is why I got the call, because the attorney was treating him like crap. And so what am I going to do? I'm in here talking to him for an hour today. Oh, sorry, we got to finish the call later. I got to do my podcast. Hell no. So I sent Scott an email. I don't remember. Mark, I'm sorry. I don't remember if I let you know, but, had to get my $1 million client. So that being said, we've got a few minutes left for some local news that affects you, California employers. And of course, we haven't forgotten about you damn independent contractors. Mark, you've got the first story of the day on Work Comp Matters. Go for it.
Thank you, Steve. And of course, since the news is all COVID all the time, I'm going to start with a COVID story. But this is a big one because, as we know, after the giant Omicron surge and the Super Bowl surge, which apparently didn't happen, the numbers have been dropping. And that's incredible. And we're seeing COVID restrictions being relaxed all over the place in California, everywhere but Los Angeles, of course. But that may be changing too. So towards that end, the Biden administration, the AP is reporting the Biden administration, specifically the Centers for Disease Control, will significantly loosen federal mask-wearing guidelines to protect against COVID-19 transmission today, according to two people familiar with the matter, meaning most Americans will no longer be advised to wear masks in indoor public settings. The CDC and prevention on Friday will announce a change to the metrics it uses to determine whether to recommend face coverings, shifting from looking at COVID-19 case counts to a more holistic view of risk from the coronavirus to a community. Now, when I read that, Steve, I said to myself, what the hell does that mean? Because when you hear about holistic medication, you think about maybe putting something, a plant or something under your tongue and everything's great. So
I think about Aaron Rodgers saying I'm immunized.
Well, I actually looked it up. I did a little Google search, and the holistic view means not looking at a specific medicinal purpose, but looking all aspects as a whole for the community. And if you understand what that means, then you understand what this means. So under current guidelines, masks are recommended for people residing in communities of substantial or high transmission, roughly 95% of U.S. counties, according to the latest data. But it looks like we're going to be relaxing the mandates even further. Now, nearly 2/3 of California voters, including a majority of parents, support mask mandates and vaccine mandates in K through 12 schools, according to a poll conducted this month by the Institute of Governmental Studies at UC Berkeley and co-sponsored by the LA Times, as reported by the LA Times and the San Diego Tribune. And finally, Google, which was on the forefront of not letting people work, said they will no longer require workers to be vaccinated. They will no longer enforce vaccine requirements as a condition of employment for US-based workers beginning today. So it looks like things, I want to say with fingers crossed and rubbing the rabbit's foot, Steve, things might be getting back to normal in the workplace and in the general community.
Well, I'm sure you mean the new normal, or at least I take new normal. But Mark, you mentioned something very important. You mentioned Los Angeles, and of course, Mayor Garcetti, who's completing his term, he's going to go to India. I have no reason why. And we've got an open mayor slot. And as of right now, I'm planning on voting for Rick Caruso. Have you heard of Rick Caruso? For those of you that don't know, Rick Caruso has declared his candidacy for mayor. He is a billionaire. I think he's worth about $4 or $5 billion. He was born in 1959. He graduated from University of California, Pepperdine University Law School, real estate businessman. He was a Republican before 2011. He's been an independent for the past 10 years. And then apparently he just declared as a Democrat. And he has built many shopping centers, Mark, by you, the Commons in Calabasas.
The Commons, the Grove, the Americana in Glendale. He's
and I also want to say
the mall builder. He's the modern mall builder.
He is not only a mall builder, he's ready to attack homelessness head on. He's ready to attack crime and destruction head on. And he has said he will take $1 a year in salary. This is the type of guy that I like, okay?
Do you remember who did that, Steve? The $1 salary mayor 20 or 30 years ago? Do you remember who it was?
He was mayor for 2 terms, and he was friends with Schwarzenegger, but I forgot.
Richard Riordan. Richard Riordan.
Right. And Los Angeles didn't turn out that bad with him at the head of the city.
No, not at all.
Well,
I like Caruso. A fresh take. I don't live in LA County. I live in Ventura County. But I would vote for him. Absolutely.
Yeah, he is my man, and he has started advertising. I'm hearing him on radio and TV. And right now, I don't see a better candidate. So I'm giving my endorsement right now for Rick Caruso. I did contact his media department. I sent an invite for him or one of his representatives to come and do an interview with me anytime. They haven't responded yet, but I do not hold that against them.
Good for you.
What's the next story, Mark?
I got one more for you, Steve. This one I actually went off the board because this is to me, this is a very disturbing story as reported by many news outlets. And I took off the NBC News website. Florida's House of Representatives yesterday passed a bill that would prohibit classroom discussion about sexual orientation or gender identity in the state's primary schools. The legislation, titled the Parental Rights in Education Bill, but dubbed by many critics as the Don't Say Gay Bill, heads to the state's Republican-held Senate, where it is expected to pass. And as we know, Ron DeSantis, the Republican mayor of Florida, will sign anything that restricts anybody's civil rights. He is has previously said he'll sign it, and therefore this is going to be law in Florida. Now, it's sponsored by a Republican state representative by the name of Joe Harding, who has continually said that the bill would not prohibit students from talking about their LGBTQ families or bar classroom discussions about LGBTQ history, including events like the 2016 attack on the Pulse nightclub, a gay club in Orlando, which was the deadliest mass shooting in American history until the shooting in Vegas. But I want to know, if you're passing a bill that prohibits the teaching of these things in schools, how do you say it's okay to talk about your family who might be LGBTQ? It's a very disturbing and a very, very scary law, in my opinion, which looks like it's going to be law in Florida any day now.
Mark, you and I and our other two siblings went to K through 12, kindergarten through 12th grade in the LAUSD. If I'm not mistaken, when I was in 5th grade, I suspect you and our brothers in 5th grade, we had to take home a 1 or 2 page authorization to have mom and dad sign so we could get our sex education out of our health class, get that education. And, you know, I'm not sure how I feel about the state regulating what is taught in health and sex education. I know that the state establishes the initial guidelines for the basic education, and then it is filtered down to the individual counties, cities, and school district. And then each school district interprets the curriculum based on the Board of Education, which is an elected position. It's elected by the voters in that district. And I think that if the voters in that district want to, some would call it go off the grid, but some would want to teach about LGBTQ, and other districts do not, as long as it is not a violation of state or federal law, the districts should be allowed to teach what they want based on the elected people of the Board of Education. What do you think?
I think, Steve, that you make a good point, and I'm not sure how it works with school districts. I believe you're correct, but my bigger concern about this bill is it's not specifically prohibiting the teaching of sex education in schools. It's prohibiting a certain population that certain conservatives do not like, and that's an attack. It's discrimination in my book.
And like I said, I think each individual school district should have the autonomy to make their own curriculum as long as it does not violate state and federal law, specifically regarding discrimination and civil rights.
Reverend on that. Gabby
Reverend.
Johnson is right. Okay. And I think watch for this one because it's going to make it to the courts. And I know we're running out of time, Steve, so I'm going to ask for 30 more seconds. This one's for John. I have an extremely liberal, hardcore liberal feed that comes up on my Facebook page. And I saw this morning, and this is what I'm going to close with. If you voted for a man who said windmills cause cancer, used a Sharpie to change the path of a hurricane, autographed Bibles, saluted a North Korean general, stared into the sun twice, said there were airplanes in the Revolutionary War, wanted to nuke hurricanes, and suggested that bleach could cure COVID, your opinion of Joe Biden's sanity is laughably irrelevant. And I'm not a flaming Biden supporter by any means, but I just thought this was hilarious. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you, Steve.
And for the record, I did not vote for Biden or Trump. I've never voted for Trump, and I did not vote for Biden. And with that, we're going to close the show. Mark, thanks for filling in for the madman across the water and the socialist voice of reason. It's a pleasure getting a middle-of-the-road Democrat, right? You're a middle-of-the-road Democrat, I guess. I don't know.
That's fair enough, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a rhino. I'm a rhino. It used to be thought of very highly. Now everybody looks down on me. Both the Dems and the Reaps say, I'm just crazy. I'm a pejorative. I'm a negative. So this rhino and that middle of the road Democrat are going to wish you all and your families a happy and safe weekend. Much thanks to Scott Walton of Legendary Uncle Studios, my brother, my personal attorney, Mark Appel, all the good people back at mancavepodcasting.com. My name is Steve Appel. We'll see you back Monday, 12 noon live for another edition of Work Comp Matters. Bye, everybody.